Well, thank you for coming back today to our event. It's so exciting to have you today because we have a speaker that I've been waiting and waiting for, and his name is David Austin, and he's part of the Thick Red Line. What's the Thick Red Line? You're going to find out all about it today, and it's very, very important because it's how we relate with our law enforcement in our communities. And this is something that is vital important to us taking back our country and our freedom and our liberty, right? Dave, would you agree with that?
Absolutely, 100%.
Well, thank you for joining us today. Why don't you tell people a little bit about yourself and how you got into this whole issue working with police?
Sure. Well, I'm very, very pleased to be here. Thank you for having us. So my name is David Austin, and I live in the city of Virgins, Vermont. It's a city of 2,600 people, 1 mile square. I'm an elected official here. I serve on the board of aldermen. Was first elected back in the early 2000s. Took a little bit of a hiatus. Around 2012, was reappointed to an open seat, and overall, I've been elected 6 times. So I've been involved in our city here for quite some time. I work in real estate. Had the opportunity to travel a lot of different places in the world, and very, very concerned with the way things are going in our country here. And last year, in around November, I became involved with Thick Red Line. I guess if we had titles, my title would be Director of Strategy. And so what we're about is very, very simple. We're all about restoring a sense of reason to the way things are done here in the United States relative to law enforcement. We are pro-police. We want to partner with the police to protect all of us against some things that are happening that are very, very concerning in our country. And so it's very, very simple. People ask, "What are you about?" We are a moral solution. We're not a legal solution, and we're not a political solution. There's a lot of folks that are working in both of those areas, and that's very, very important. But we're not interested in pursuing the political piece of it. We're not interested in pursuing the legal end of it in terms of filing of lawsuits and these types of things. What we're all about is very, very simple. No victim, no crime. That's what we're about. And so we can sum it up. It's about live and let live. Do unto others, no victim, no crime. And that pretty much says it all about what we're about. So we understand that police officers have a very, very difficult job, and the job is becoming increasingly difficult, and that they have the same issues that everybody has. These guys want to do the right thing. They also have mortgages and families and other bills to pay. So when you have a police officer who wants to stand up against some of these laws that are, frankly, they're unconstitutional, they violate the natural law, and they don't make any sense. The police officers who want to stand up against that, it's very, very difficult for them. And the reason is that they're going to get an incredible amount of pushback very, very quickly from the folks that enact the laws. And so what we try to do is create a level of community support for those officers that are willing to go out and say, "Hey, enough is enough. I'm not going to support laws that are in violation of the Constitution. I'm not going to support laws that are in violation of the natural law. I'm not going to use violence against peaceful people." And that's really what we're all about. That's what we're trying to do.
So let's just take some examples. Let's say people want to go to church And that's their constitutional right to assemble and to pray and to go to their church. And the law enforcement people get a call that they're supposed to, that people are gathering against these edicts or mandates against being in church. They will, as I understand it, following the principle that you're talking about, they won't enforce. They will, they will just not enforce those unconstitutional laws. They won't enforce a law that is against the Bill of Rights and the natural rights of the human beings to assemble and to pray together. Is that what you're saying?
That's absolutely correct. That's a very, very good example. And I believe, and we we all believe at Thick Red Line, that law enforcement officers, they want to support our rights. I am very good friends with a number of police officers, and they all tell me the same thing, that we don't like this any more than you do. And I'll give you an example. I mean, how we started. Howard Lichtman, who was one of our founders, was in Santa Cruz, California, and the beaches were closed. And so he and another group started going to the beaches, and the police would show up, and they'd say, "Hey, you can't be here. You're violating the mask order. You're violating social distancing. You can't be here." And they'd say, "Well, why not? We're not bothering anybody. We're here on a beach. It's public property." Right. And police officers said, "We don't want to be here anymore than you want us here. We're just doing our job." And so Howard had an epiphany and realized, he said, "Hey, there needs to be a way to support these guys that want to do the right thing." And so that's what happened. So more and more people would show up, and the police would come, and then they'd just walk away. They'd leave peacefully. And so that's really how it started. And so the example what you use of church, that's a very, very good one.
Yeah. We've been working on this for a while now. Our group has been putting on events to try to, get people to realize that they have constitutional rights, and they shouldn't be following. They shouldn't be agreeing to be sheep and to not go to church, for example, or not go into the restaurant that they want to go into. So I was in Yuba City. We were driving up from Nevada up to Oregon, where these people live, and we got a call, and they said, "Hey, we just found out that Sheriff Barnes in Yuba City told the Governor Newsom, that he was not going to enforce the rules about not having church at their local church, big church. I mean, 300-400 people there, all the time." And so we stopped and we interviewed Sheriff Barnes, and he said, "Look, it's people's constitutional right to go to church." And I told the governor that, I'm not going to enforce his mandates, and that not to try to make me, because if he does, he's going to be met with resistance in this county. And so we did a big event that next weekend there, and there were like 400 people there, and had a lot of speakers and everything, and they've been open the whole time. And so when you push back, and they're not in the right, they have no constitutional right or forcing these mandates not to be in church. So there you go. If you have a good law enforcement officer or a good sheriff in your town, he can just say no to the governor, and that's what happened there. So, that's what people need to do. People need to just say no.
Absolutely. I mean, and this isn't specifically about the mask order or lockdowns or anything else. That's just one of the most pointed examples of what's going on. But really, what it comes down to is we either choose to abdicate responsibility for our well-being to folks that may or may, in a lot of cases, probably do not have our best interests at heart. And there's too many elected officials that that are in the positions that they're in, maybe not for the best reasons. And so, they're enacting every single day. There's another rule. There's another regulation. Everybody supports the police when they're doing the things that are important to maintaining an orderly society,
Right.
arresting the bad guys,
Right.
But when we're dealing with things like somebody being arrested for attending church, or some of the other things that we've seen, particularly in places like California, that peaceful people are being victimized, and the police are put in a position of having to make these very, very difficult choices. And so we're working very hard to provide a framework for them to have the support that they should have. Most police officers, all of the police officers that I know, are very, very good people.
Yeah.
And so one of the important things, and I can't stress this enough, we are pro-police. One of the things that we say, we have meetings that are open to anyone in law enforcement who can come on, they can learn about what we're about. And one of the things that I always do is I ask them, I say, what can we do to help you? Because that's really why we're here.
Right.
The reason we're here is we understand very, 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 very well that there's some very, very troubling things happening in the United States. And these mask orders and lockdowns and all of the other things, that's what's happening now. What's next?
Yeah.
What's next? And that's really concerning. And so
mandatory vaccines is next. That's
yeah, absolutely. And you'll need a vaccine passport to travel and to shop for food and everything else. And it's very, very troubling. Very troubling. And so, police officers often talk about, a line that they will not cross. Well, I won't seize someone's firearms. I won't seize someone's property. I won't do X, Y, or Z. And so what we're trying to do is to get folks in law enforcement to understand where that line is in advance of the line being crossed.
Right.
And so, we're not a political organization. I mean, we're already being shadow banned in some places. And, there's people that are, everybody wants to put everybody in a box.
Right.
And we're not, we're not a political organization. We have folks of all political stripes that believe in the principles that we're talking about, but we are pro law enforcement, and I cannot stress that enough.
So how much, it seems to me like the key of this, I've been working with the sheriffs, with Sheriff Richard Mack, and helping him do constitutional meetings and constitutional education, creating constitutional sheriffs in the different counties since 2012. And the key really isn't it educating the people in the community to support their police that want to act constitutionally and want to be, support natural law and common law, but not ruler's law. What Skousen calls ruler's law. There's ruler's law, and then there's natural law or common law. And ruler's law is these edicts and mandates, and that isn't even law. I mean, what they're doing, and Newsom and all these governors, it isn't law because it hasn't been passed by the legislation. It's just simply edicts and mandates that aren't law, right? Am I right on that?
Absolutely. They don't have the force of law, and that's the problem. And so if we're going to live under the rule of law, as we have, for a very long time here, we need to understand where that line is. And a lot of these things that are being done, and it's not even important, what somebody's perspective is relative to masks or no masks, or what COVID is, whether it's real, whether it's not real. Everybody is free to have their own perspective on that. Okay. But what everybody needs to realize is that it's your choice. It is your choice. If you choose to wear a mask, that's fine. If you choose to get vaccinated, that's fine. But the government should not be in the position of telling you that you have to. And the government should particularly not be in the position of enforcing something that they have no right to enforce.
Yeah.
And so we understand that this is an end run around those in government who would continue to do this to us. Because who does the enforcement? Police officers. So if the police officers say, hey, you know what? I'm not going to do this. That effectively, neuters whatever these folks are going to do. And the important thing, and when I talk to people and they get tied up in the minutia of things, and there's people that want to argue about, masks or no mask or COVID or what it is, what it isn't. That's not the point. The point is that they shouldn't be doing it. And I talked to somebody the other day and they said, well, this is a really dangerous thing. And this is, I wear my mask and, I don't go here and I don't go there. And it's very, very important. That's fine. If that's what you believe, you're free to believe that. But I want you to think about what's coming next. Think about what's coming next. What's the next rule or the next mandate? Because you don't know what that is. That's what ought to scare people.
Yeah, well, it's pretty obvious to me what it is. I mean, what they want is total control. This is livestock management is what it is.
Absolutely.
And the thing is that people don't realize. I've been studying this for my whole life and written books on it. And our founders knew that this one thing, that power corrupts and power corrupts absolutely. Not only that, but power actually attracts the corruptible. It attracts people who love power. And so it's just always going to grow, and it's always going to be attracting people that want to control other people because of that sense. It's like a drug. Jefferson talked about this, that it's not something people can resist. It's like a drug that you get addicted to, is power over others. And that's what we're really fighting. And people need to wake up and realize that if we give in to these mandates and we act like sheep, they're going to keep pushing it until the point where we have no freedoms left at all.
Sure. Absolutely. I'll give you an example. So last year, at the beginning of all of these things, you would go in stores, and this was in Vermont and a number of other places as well. And those in charge had determined what were and what were not is, quote, essential. And so here in Vermont, there were places that you would go in, and when the stores were allowed to open, and they would actually have areas of the stores roped off as non-essential. You can't buy this. And one of the things that they had roped off were seeds and gardening supplies.
Wow.
You think about that, seeds and gardening supplies. And one of the other things is that, there are zoning ordinances in some places that prohibit you growing your own food. And so how are those enforced? Okay. So there's a notice of violation issued by a zoning administrator in community X. Okay. Somebody doesn't comply, they ignore it, the fines accrue. Sooner or later, the municipality will take it to court and there will be an order. They'll put a lien on the property. eventually it could ratchet up to seizure. Who's going to do the seizure? Someone with a badge and a gun. We want the guy with the badge, or a woman with the badge and the gun, because we know that most of them understand that that's wrong. We want them to say, hey, you know what? This all started over something incredibly stupid. You told these people they couldn't grow their own food in their own yard, and now you want to take their house. You know what? I'm not going to do it. That takes the wind out of their sails. That's what we're trying to do with all of this stuff.
Yeah, I think that what do you get when a cop says, if I do that, I'll lose my job and won't be able to support my family.
Yeah, and so what we want to do is we want to create enough of a level of community support so that the people that might be in the people that employ police officers, they're political animals. They're people that they get elected. We want them to understand that there's enough level of support for these officers that they're protected, that okay, you want to fire Officer Joe, we're going to show up with a petition, we're going to pack this meeting, we're going to do everything that we can do to cause you to reconsider.
Right.
And next time you're up for election, you're not getting reelected. Now, if enough people do that, that is change. It is substantive change.
Yeah.
There's real change on a massive scale.
Yeah, I think that you just really put your finger on it, and that's it. It's got to be the community support. There's got to be enough people in the community that are willing to do that, to go to city council meetings and support these law enforcement officers that are refusing to enforce unlawful, unconstitutional mandates. That's got to be coming. So this is where the people can stand up against these things. I hadn't heard of anybody on this, seeds and food thing, or farming and growing your own food. I hadn't seen that. That is unbelievable. Is that what's happening in Vermont?
Not any longer, but it was happening here for a period of time initially. I know it was happening in Michigan as well.
Oh.
What they would do would be they would tape off areas of stores that, well, you can go in this aisle, you can't go in this aisle over here. These are non-essential items. And people, I mean, there's people that want to look at what we're doing. And they're going to call us conspiracy theorists. They're going to call us that, or they're going to tell us that we're this, we're that, we're so on and so forth. And we're really only about protecting the freedoms that have been fought very, very hard for us all to have. Yeah. That's what we're about, and I go back to it. I mean, what it comes down to is live and let live. Period. The end. Live and let live. Do unto others. No victim, no crime.
Yeah, no victim, no crime. It's so simple. Are you familiar with the work of Richard Maybury?
I am.
Okay, so I always like to, whenever I get a chance, to tell people about his book, Whatever Happened to Justice. I like people to go there. You go to Blue Stocking Press and get the book, Whatever Happened to Justice, and find out what common law and natural law really is. But basically, this concept of no victim, no crime, and there's really only two laws, and that is, one is if you make an agreement, you are obligated to follow through on that agreement. That's rule number one. And number two is never encroach on the rights or property of another person.
Absolutely.
Right? Would you agree with that?
100%.
Yeah, and
100%.
And there's only two laws. We don't need hundreds and hundreds of laws and statutes and mandates. Those two laws, if those two laws we lived by those two laws, it would make everything much simpler. And, it would be a completely different society.
Absolutely, it would make everything better. We would be a lot more peaceful.
Right.
We would allocate our resources in a manner that makes much more sense.
Mhm.
And one of the important things to point out is, one of the biggest problems with these things, these victimless crimes, is that every opportunity, every situation where there's an interaction, okay, and I know this from having police officers who are very good friends. Every single time there's an interaction, that's an opportunity uh, for a situation that starts out as a very, very small thing to become very complicated, um, and and end very badly for everybody involved. And so if you minimize these interactions, if you minimize the situation of somebody who's growing food on their own property, of avoiding that person having to be forcibly removed from their property, that that negates the opportunity for things to end very badly. And that's an important thing.
I think the other thing is you talk about resources being allocated. Um, and every state in the country, I've researched this, and you guys got great research on this too. The number one budget item, the biggest expense in every state is incarceration.
Absolutely. The
And
United States we incarcerate more people than any other country in the world.
I'm going to show this. This is your part in your thing. And you see here, this is the rest of the world, all here. The most any other country incarcerates per 100,000 people is 266. Or is that 1,000 people? Out of 1,000, 266. So you see the rest of the world here. And then here's the United States, 786. We incarcerate 3 times more than the next closest country.
Yeah, absolutely.
So we're locking all these people up and we're paying that cost. It's insane. And would you say 90% of the people that we're incarcerating, we wouldn't have to incarcerate if we followed your simple principle of no victim, no crime.
Yeah, absolutely. It's about what we're all about. It's about the impact. It's about the impact of things. It's not what someone does. It's what the impact is. I take my own, personal safety and security very, very seriously. And, I want to be able to pick up the phone if someone's threatening me, if someone's, stealing my property, if all of these things that are very, very universal as human beings that we shouldn't do to each other. I want a very quick and very sure response to that. And I want those officers to have the resources available to them to execute in those situations to the highest level.
Right.
And I think that everybody else wants that too. They don't want to be enforcing these things that really don't make any sense and really violate the natural law and violate common law. They don't want to be doing that.
Right.
And we feel that we have a way to help them stand up and say no.
You guys do. And I want to show, first of all, everybody this book that I was just showing you. This is it. This is called Your Starter Pack Handbook, the Police and Sheriff's Department Thick Red Line Project, by the then there's a number sign Thick Red Line Project. And what's your website that people can go to?
If you just Google Thick Red Line, we'll show up right at the top of it.
Even Google? Not
even Google still has us up there. But yeah, we're Thick Red Line, all one word, all caps.
Right.
And what you'll find on our website is a lot of different resources. And we are here to help. We really want folks to reach out. One of the most important things is to familiarize yourself with what we're all about. There's a lot of resources there. And there's in our web store, you can order materials, you can download them for free. But one of the things that you can do is every other week we host meetings. We host informational meetings for both community members and elected officials and law enforcement. And you can click on that link. It will sign you up for a meeting. It's a Zoom meeting. And either Howard Lichtman or myself, or very often both of us, are in those meetings, and we'll tell you in detail what we're about, what we can do to help. But one of the most important things is we get an opportunity to understand what the challenges are in particular communities, and we will help you. We will help you to understand how best to work with leaders and law enforcement in your community. If the resources are available, we'd even fly out somewhere. But I've been on the phone with folks. When folks reach out to their local officials and law enforcement, we're more than happy to participate in those meetings. And we really want to learn what we can do to support individual initiatives in individual communities. And we understand that this is a heavy lift. And it's not just as simple as going out and saying to your sheriff or your chief of police, hey, I want you to stop enforcing X, Y, and Z. Because they're going to look at that and they're going to say, well, I'm going to lose my job, or why should I do this? And so so we really understand the importance of understanding the individual situations in individual communities.
And I think you've really nailed it. It's not that simple, but the real key is to get a lot of people in your community behind this effort, because then if the police and the sheriffs, they see that they have the public standing behind them, they're going to be a lot more likely to stop enforcing these unconstitutional edicts and mandates, right?
Absolutely. And we really, in these meetings, we really stress that what we're about is supporting the police, and there's people out there that they just want to argue, or they're anti-police. We're not about that, and we're not going down that road. We're here, we're pro law enforcement. We're here to help.
Yeah, it's awesome what you guys are doing. I think really this is maybe the most important interview that I've done.
Thank you. I can't tell you how much we appreciate the opportunity.
Yeah, we'll keep having you guys on. We really want to get this message out, folks. So please, people, Google or DuckDuckGo, Thick Red Line, and learn about this. Or can they order this pamphlet?
Absolutely. It's available for order on our website. You can download it for free. We've got it set up in a PDF. The other thing is that we have a very active Telegram group that you can join, that you can connect with others in your area. Like I'll like in the state of Utah, we have some very, very, very good traction there. There's a number of groups in individual counties. So, what the beauty of our Telegram group is that you can go on there and you can find others that are active within your community. And that's what a lot of these folks have done in Utah, and they're having a pretty good level of success there. And we've worked with them. When you go to our website and you like what you see and you learn about us, and you say, hey, this is something I want to know more about, even 3, 5, 10, however many you can, get your friends together, reach out to us. Howard and I will make the time to have a meeting with you and figure out how we can help.
This Zoom tool is really, really a fantastic vehicle to get people together, and you can get as many people on a meeting as you want.
Absolutely.
And really start to organize your community and then your state. And And I'm just so excited that you guys are doing what you're doing. We support you 100%. And
And
order this
we
brochure, get them out, hand them out in your community,
Yeah,
educate.
and we have some really exciting things that we're working on. We're working on a membership program to help us sustain the work that we do. We have some really exciting things that we're going to be rolling out very soon. Laptop stickers and t-shirts and all of the stuff that everybody likes to see.
Right.
And so we we see this as something that is very, very critical to our future, very critical to our own well-being, and critical for the folks in law enforcement to be able to continue doing the work that they do.
And really, and to finish with this, is that if we want to peacefully get out of the mess that we're in right now, this is really the way to go, I think, because if you can convince your law enforcement people that you're behind them, and they stop enforcing all of these unconstitutional violations of our rights, we can end the whole thing, the mask thing, the mandates, the lockdowns. It will all end, and it's starting. I'm seeing some great videos going around. I don't know if you saw the one in Vancouver where their version of OSHA went in and we're going to make everybody put their masks on, and the people just started a chant, "Get out, get out, get out,"
Yeah.
louder.
Yeah.
And finally, they just turned around and walked away.
Yeah.
That was it. So that's what we need to start doing.
Yeah. We're actually, I believe, as does Howard, we're really the only option.
Yeah.
If you look at what's happened to our country here in the last year or so, and the level of violence that we've seen, it's very, very sad, very sad. And this is the way to prevent that.
Yeah. David, thank you so much for taking your time today.
Thank you.
And everyone that has been on this interview and heard this knowledge, please share this with everyone that you know, and start organizing your own thick red line movement within your own community. It's vital to turning this around in a peaceful way. Okay, thank you so much, David.
Thank you.
Good
Thank
luck.
you.
Good luck to you. Okay.
Thank you very much.